You're listening to So You Want to Start a Business podcast, and I am your host, Ingrid Thompson. I'm the author of the business book with the same name as this podcast, So You Want to Start a Business, available wherever you like to buy your books. My guest today is Crystal Sanford, and this is an amazing interview, so incredibly special. As a regular listener, you know that one of the most rewarding aspects of this podcast is the amazing businesswomen we get the chance to meet and chat with, people we might never otherwise have had the opportunity or the privilege to come across. If you're new to the podcast, hello and welcome. Thank you to everyone for being here, for spending your precious time with me and my guests. I know there are a lot of podcasts out there to choose between. Business, and especially the financial side of business, has become so complicated, and I aim to simplify it, especially the financial side. My business is healthynumbers.com.au, and I am on a mission to help business owners understand how money works in their business, because I believe everyone deserves to be financially savvy when it comes to understanding how money works in business and in life. And you know what? If you want to check out your level of financial savvy, head over to my website, healthynumbers.com.au/health-check, HEALTHCHEK, all one word, and you will find a fabulously simple 15 simple yes/no questions to access your financial savvy. In this podcast, we get to meet business owners and we delve into their business wisdom and their lessons learned to debunk the common business myths in order to give you tangible, tactical tools and tips that you can build and grow your business. I wrote the book, So You Want to Start a Business, to help you understand the business fundamentals and find your level of financial safety through building a business. This book is the only advertising on this podcast. And pretty much every day, someone somewhere in the world buys a copy. It's amazing. And thank you if you have bought a copy for yourself, for a friend, or for a colleague. To find your copy of So You Want to Start a Business book, head to your local independent bookseller. We love the independents, or wherever you buy your books online, if that's easier for you. Now, let's listen to Crystal and her incredible business story. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, and here we are today with Crystal Sanford. Hello, Crystal. I've been so looking forward to this conversation. Good afternoon, good morning.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Now, Crystal, where in the world are you?
Well, I am currently in sunny San Diego, California, in the U.S.
I love San Diego. I have actually been to San Diego. It is a lovely, lovely place to visit. And I'm sure it's a spectacular place to live. So, right. So let's get into business. What business are you in? How do you describe your business? Because you have a really unique business, which is one of the reasons we have you here today. So how do you describe your business?
I describe my business as a consulting practice empowering special needs families. And so we are a three-prong approach to supporting any parent of a child with unique needs, where we provide assessments and parent training and coaching and advocacy through the public school education process.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful business. And I'm just going to say, Crystal, thank you so much for what you and your team do. So when did you get started in your business?
So I started officially in November of 2016. I say officially because it really was just, filing the name and getting it on paper, but it took a little bit of time to actually get my momentum going. But in 2016, after 2 years after my daughter had been diagnosed with autism, I finally took the leap and started a practice where I could then help fellow parents along their journey.
You've kind of answered the next question about why you started the business, but what did you want from the business? Because, clearly you're helping other families. What did you want from the business?
I really wanted something that I could gain professional growth, a business that really was rewarding, that I found the work to be valuable, but that I could also do on a part-time basis. So I would be freed up enough to be able to still engage with my young children at that time.
And they're still quite young, aren't they? We
Yeah,
they may come and join in on our
they
conversation at some
might.
point. They just might,
They
and
might.
that's
Yeah.
perfectly fine. So with the business, so we're nearly 5 years. Wow, that's a long time since November 16.
Mhm.
Was there a moment when the business felt real? That you thought to yourself, "Wow, this is a real business. I'm in business."
I think when I got my first client, a parent who, because when I first started off, I think I charged my first parent $75, just something that said that this is actually a business in my mind. Because I was just more concerned about helping a family, with their special needs. But when I had my first client that paid me something in the hundreds of dollars, I thought, oh wow, this is real. This actually is becoming a something formal, like a business here. And then I was able to, after a few years after that, access a contract with an agency here that provides funding. And so that too started making me really feel like I was in business.
Yeah. There's something magic about the actual financial transactions, isn't
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So early days, how did
Mhm.
you get customers? Because, this is an unusual foray to move into, much needed, I'm sure. Wouldn't have taken long to find your customers. But who were those first customers and how did you find them?
I do feel as though I struggled at the beginning. I think like many of us do in trying to access and find, our unique specific customers. I knew who that person was. I was that person, but being able to tangibly access them, I felt like was a unique challenge. And so I did a lot of free things. I did a lot of free talks at the library, and I did free coffee talks at the local coffee shop, and I would promote that on Facebook and another program we have here, Eventbrite. And so I just did a lot of free community sharing of information and trying to stay fairly consistent on at least 2 platforms of social media. And I think that kind of helped people to begin to know, like, and trust me and my company as a brand.
So 2 platforms of social media. Gosh, that's to choose only 2 out of the, I
I
don't know,
know.
I've lost track of how many there are
Oh
now.
my
There's
gosh.
gazillions, isn't there? So what are
Yeah.
the 2? And actually, this is probably a great moment, Crystal, for you to tell us all where we could find you. If somebody's already listening to this thinking, I need to find Crystal, where do we find you? And what are those 2 and why those 2?
So I chose Facebook and Instagram. And I chose those 2 because in thinking about my ideal client, the demographics of that client, I knew that my client was hanging out primarily on those 2 platforms. And so I focused my energy there. Also because it was easy to share a post on one and transfer it to another. So that kind of made it a no-brainer for me because I'm a one-woman show. And so I didn't have enough time to invest in a lot of places. So I just put, all my eggs in that basket, I guess. So you can find me at Facebook at SD Autism Help is my link there. And then on Instagram at Sanford Autism.
So slightly different. And then your website
Yes.
is the sdautismhelp.com, isn't it?
Yes, just like
Okay,
SD for San Diego.
San Diego Autism Help. And then we'll put that in the show notes as well. But if somebody wants to jump on and have a look at that now. Okay, so, and that generated your first customers. So giving those free talks, inviting people to come to them was how your first customers. How do you get customers today? Because it's nearly 5 years later. Yeah. So what's been that journey of finding customers? Because it does take time to build that, doesn't it?
It really does. And, like I said, that early journey of just getting yourself out there, getting yourself known, getting your face out there was a lot of the work that I did initially. That did bring in money, but I knew that was, steps that I was taking that was going to lead me toward being able to access more clients consistently. And so now a lot of my clients are coming by word of mouth. And that's really where you want it, right? People who have valued their work with you will then tell others. And so within Facebook groups I've had, and I always ask clients how they found me, moms will tell other moms who are reaching out for help. They'll say, oh, you've got to reach out to Crystal. Sometimes they'll even tag me in the post. She helped me with my child, and I'm sure she could help you with yours. So that's really touches my heart to see, that kind of thing happening.
Yeah, that's congratulations, Crystal. And, I'm guessing that the results, in fact, speak for themselves as well. The fact that you have an impact, on those families that have the unique needs, and that you work with the parents, because they're the ones that need the help, as does the child, but it's the whole family approach, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can we talk about money, financial viability? So, early days, you said you weren't charging much, you're doing a lot for free, and then you start charging small amounts, and then somebody paid you hundreds of dollars. Talk to us about how you get the pricing right for this, because, this is one of the big challenges that anyone in the service industry faces, is how do you price yourself?
Well, one way that I have gotten better at pricing, and I'm not going to say I'm excellent, but I've gotten better, is I have a business coach. I just actually had my recent contact with her this week. And she has really helped me to, one, understand the value of who I am and what I offer, and then feel confident enough to be able to raise my prices on a regular basis as the business has grown. And so I started where I was still working a 9-to-5 job when I first started my business. And so at that point, I wasn't as concerned about pricing, it just getting started. And then that continued to grow until a space where I left my 9-to-5 and now I'm working my business full time. I then needed to make a shift in my pricing. Also, I was learning more. I had, more experience. And so I was able to charge more. So having that business coach kind of helped me to open my eyes to one thing she always talks about is, if something costs a small amount, people are going to think it's not very valuable. But if something has a higher price tag, they're going to realize that this is a valuable item. And so I had to match my pricing with my understanding of my value.
Yeah, I love that. If it's too low a value, it doesn't. If it's too low a price. Crystal, how do you then, and this is a question without notice, but how do you then, with that mindset, what happens then, do you think, for people who maybe, because we might believe, oh, they need me, but they can't afford me. Like how do we manage that sort of thinking? Because we think, well, I don't want to not be able to help someone just because they haven't got hundreds of dollars to pay. How do we rationalize that in our mind?
That was definitely something that I had to kind of come to terms with. And I had to realize that I offer a lot of different options. And I put space in the business where there are many options. So, I do still occasionally do like a quarterly free event so people can access me that way. I do have a contract with this agency so that they will pay for parents to access me. So then that's an option. And then I have a lower price point package and a higher price point package, depending on how much service I provide. And so I just had to make sure. I also created an online course for parents. They can, purchase the course for $97. So I just made a way so that at any level, parents could at least access some level of knowledge and support.
Yeah, that's wonderful, wonderful. And I'm guessing that the parents who are watching your Instagram and your Facebook, that there's value there for them purely by being part of your community in the Facebook and Instagram community as well. Yeah, having those different ways for people to access you. And do you find, Crystal, that people sort of come in at that free kind of spot and then gradually upgrade to...
Yeah, that does happen, actually. I've had I remember a lady maybe a couple of years ago now, and she had been on my mailing list from some free event, and she finally decided she wanted some support. And she said, Crystal, I've been on your mailing list for a year. And I've just really enjoyed what you've offered, and now I realize now is the time I need some help. And you were the person I went to. So, so that does happen where people will convert at whatever time that they feel ready.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important for everybody to hear that example, because people need some time to get used to, is this the person who's going to help me? Are they providing the sort of information? Are they giving the examples? Are they working through the cases that are resonating with what I need? And then when they get to the point where they're going to work with you, they are so committed, because they know that you are, Crystal, you are the only person who's going to be able to help me right now with what I need. So, yeah, it's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so reflection, if you were to go back and kind of do anything again, and I know we can't go back and we learn lessons and all of that, but if you were to sort of reflect on something that you might have done differently, what might you have done differently?
Wow, that's a really great question. I think one thing I would have done differently maybe is the pricing, like you talked about. I think I would have made a quicker shift in my pricing so that it was more gradual versus, realizing, wow, I think I need to shift. And so then, jumping to maybe a higher number. I think I would have liked to have done that a little more gradually. And then I think maybe making us a little bit of a sooner shift and leaving my 9-to-5 position. That was something that probably 6 months prior probably could have done that and been okay.
And been okay. Was the work that you were doing prior the same as the work that you're doing now? Were they in similar fields or were they quite different?
Similarly, so I was working for a public school district as a speech pathologist. And so I had done that for 20 years at the time that I made the shift. And so now I work as an outside entity and I go into public schools and support families in a different way.
Yeah, it's a different thing. But, it's very understandable when we have that 9-to-5, there's the insurance and there's the certainty and the paycheck goes in every week. Whereas now, there could be fluctuating revenue across the different months. So it is a huge choice to make. We have to be very, very sure that the new income is going to be, especially if the income that we're earning is what's actually keeping us going.
Right. Yeah.
Paying rent and feeding our families and providing for everything we need. Crystal, I use the word tough because that's one of my words, but business is challenging, it can be difficult. And I know this last 12 months has been it has, and 2021 I think has been even more bizarre than 2020 was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that truly we all thought 2021 was going to be the better one. But so with that, maybe setting the whole uniqueness of the last period aside, what in general is it about business that you have found makes it difficult or tough? And how do you get through that?
Wearing many hats, I feel like, as a solopreneur has really been, I think, the challenge. And so, being the marketing person, being the administrative assistants, and then doing the work and, all those pieces I have found to be challenging. So I started outsourcing pieces where I could. And so I brought on 2 VAs, virtual assistants and they do a great job of helping me with some of the billing, and then another one helps me with the podcast that I do for special needs families. So being able to take those hats off has been a nice relief, and that has given me more space to do more work with families.
Yeah. That was a question I was going to ask you, is about, like, we can't do it all ourselves, because you mentioned earlier that you're a one-person show. It's we're wearing all those hats, and those were the first things that you put out. Would you like to tell everybody what your podcast is? Because we do love a good podcast. And so if anyone's listening, what's the name of your podcast, please?
Sure. It's Thriving Special Families. And we offer insight, humor, and hope for the special needs parenting journey. So, anywhere where you find podcasts, you'll find Thriving Special Families.
Thriving Special Families. And Crystal, can I ask you, is that helpful for anybody who's maybe in a school system or somebody who's in another system that maybe hasn't got special needs? They're not in a family that's special needs, but is that helpful information for anyone who maybe comes into contact with someone with special needs? Would they benefit from listening to your podcast as well?
Definitely. I always have interviews and I try to bring value to the parents. And these topics are things that service providers too could benefit from. So I have had a few service providers who will listen regularly because they want to get new information to share with families. So, we talk about different kinds of abilities. We talk about, how to keep your kids at the dinner table. We talk about picky eating and sleep and autism, different topics that I think could be important for any professional as well.
Yeah. And I as someone who's in the community and doesn't really have anybody in my kind of inner circle that's in that, but we're in a community where everybody exists, and just having that knowledge can be quite beneficial. So I have found your podcast very interesting for me as an individual to just really have an empathy and an understanding of what some people, how their families generate. Well, every family is different, and
right.
but there's another level of complexity to the families that are dealing with different things. We can't do it all ourselves. We've talked about your VAs and your business coach. What difference has having those people, like the business coach and your VAs, what difference has that made to you in terms of how you can run your business and how you feel you can serve your clients?
It's really helped to, especially for the VAs, it's really given me more of a time space to be able to do the things that only I can do. And they're great with training and giving them a task. They can just run with it. And so that has opened me up to be able to take on another case or client because I'm not dealing with the minutia of some of those tasks. And the business coach has just really given me a place of a community, because that's something that I think you miss, having worked for an entity and worked in a district with, sharing space with people on teams. You miss that when you're a solopreneur. And so having the business coach, having someone to bounce ideas off of has been really helpful in helping me to be creative and get creative and add some pieces to my business.
Yeah, I honestly, Crystal, I believe that working on my own is one of the greatest challenges for me, is that I really benefit. Like, I spent 20 years in the corporate world, and and even though, there were days when you thought, could we just all go away?
Right.
Like just not having that energy around and the intellectual rigor around you is a real shock for people when they leave the 9 to 5. Not that it was ever 9 to 5, but, when you leave the workforce and go and be on your own. So having that community around you is so vital. And I'm glad your business coach is able to provide that for you. That's great. Okay, so we've been talking about getting started. Is there, so if someone comes to you and says, I'm thinking about getting started in my own business, what do you say to them? How would you respond to that?
I would say, good for you. I'm a big proponent of, do what brings you joy. But with practicality, right? So I would really encourage somebody, yes, if you have a passion, if you have a thing that people come to you for all the time, if you have something that you just really enjoy doing for free for people, then maybe that could be a space that you could develop a business out of. But then I also encourage people to write the vision, right? And so start taking some notes about what would business look like? What would this plan look like? Who would you be serving in your population? And if you can't get past that part, then maybe you're not ready to start the business yet, because there is a part where you're going to have to put the dream to paper, so that other people can invest in it and believe in it too. So
that's so insightful, Crystal. Wow, that is one of the best answers I think I've ever heard for that. And I love what you said there about, if it's something that, do what brings you joy, and if it's something that you do for free. We had a recent guest who says that the thing she wishes she'd realized is that anything is monetizable. That you can figure out when you get to that, putting it on paper, when you get to figuring it out who it is, that there's pretty much someone who will buy pretty much anything. So there's, that idea to monetize. So I love what you said there. That was so fabulous. 3 characteristics that make you successful in business.
Oh gosh, doggedly determined. My husband would say that about me, that once I get an idea in my head, I will persist, and run with it. Detail oriented, right? I love spreadsheets and detail. So that has helped me, especially in the early days, doing so many things myself. And then being a good listener, in my practical work as a speech pathologist is just a piece of what I've always had to do. But being that good listener is really important, because people want to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard. They want to know that they matter. And so I do a lot of listening in my work, and that's been helpful for the families.
Yeah. And I would imagine as a speech pathologist, you're listening at a speech pathologist, you're listening at a level that isn't just the sound and the tone. Like there's layers of listening that you're doing.
Yes.
So your listening training has been really fine-tuned. Amazing. Yeah. Crystal, I think we could talk for a long time about what you're doing. and I'm sure your families, if they're recommending you and word of mouth is how you're growing, is clearly what you're doing is having a huge impact in the world. Anything you'd like to leave us with as we come to a close?
Well, I just think that for those who are listening who are business owners, if you're new, early on in your business, I would just say have hope. Don't give up. Write that thing down somewhere, that reason why you got started, and maybe look at it every once in a while and remind yourself of what made you get into the business to begin with, when things get tough, when you aren't finding clients or things are going on, because there's a reason that you got started. And I hope that fire would stay lit in you, because we need people. We need somebody to do the thing that you're doing. And so just be hopeful and don't give up.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Crystal. It's been a fabulous conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been great.
I told you this was going to be a terrific interview, and what a woman, what an interview. What are your standouts? Here's a couple of mine. I love how honest she was about it being tough at the start, but finding clients and giving free talks at the library and the coffee talks and promoting them on social media. And at the beginning, that's what it took. And then she focused on 2 platforms. Why only 2? Because Facebook and Instagram, she recognized that by posting on Instagram allowed it to be shared to Facebook. And when you're doing everything yourself, we're always looking for those shortcuts that we can make things easier for ourselves. What about what she said about pricing, and that her business coach had helped her realize and understanding the value she provides, and recognize that the price she charges reflects her growing expertise and the value that is to the clients, and that the clients receive that value. There's a big takeaway in her business pricing model, and it allows people to access at various price points the quarterly free webinars, the media and the information she posts on Facebook and Instagram, the self-paced online program, which has a small cost, and then there are 2 levels of one-on-one coaching. So there's really great lessons for everyone in creating a pricing model based on some of her examples. I loved her 3 characteristics: doggedly determined, detail-oriented, and being a good listener. And I love what she said about everyone wants to be heard and know that they matter. I'm enormously grateful to Crystal for her time, her generosity in this conversation. Her final suggestion is for us to hope. Don't give up. Write that thing down and look at it to remind yourself of why you got started. That's it for another episode from me. As I say, when we pursue business and entrepreneurship based on core values and deepest integrity, and at the same time build a financially successful business, we live richer, fuller lives. And my final question to you right now is, what action are you inspired to take today? Thanks for listening.